What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a topic that seemed to do pretty well last time I did this video. It's been about a year, and one of the biggest things that I wanted to avoid when, talking about this type of topic is just falling into the easy trap of, old tournament pack cards and stuff, and actually going through and finding some neat ones that people may not know about. So if you didn't tell by the title of the video, we are going to talk about expensive Yu-Gi-Oh commons part 2. I did a video about this at the end of last year, and like I said, it picked up traction very randomly after like a couple months of being out. And so if you guys haven't seen that one and you do want to check it out and see some of the ones we talked about there, you can click the link in the description below or click on screen now while this is displaying and go check it out. But I've got new commons for you, so we're going to jump into that and take a look at how the market's been lately with some commons you might not know about. And of course, as you guys do watch the video, I ask please hit the like button and subscribe. If you do enjoy the video and such, leave a comment down below to boost the interaction. Let me know what you guys think about these commons, whether or not you knew about these cards, if there's maybe some I missed, you want to see some covered in other videos, so on and so forth. And of course, you can click the bell icon to stay notified for all upcoming videos. But let's actually jump into the video itself here, and we are just going to get right to it. So as a rule of thumb, there's a lot of commons that are worth a lot of money in this game. Many of them come from dual terminal or OTS, tournament pack, whatever. Anything that is a tournament pack or older or from a dual terminal, I have excluded because I do feel like it's pretty easy and common and doesn't really, no pun intended there, and doesn't really do anything that people probably don't already know. I could show a bunch of dual terminal preview cards like the old Blue Eyes and the old commons there, but those are all worth money because they're old as hell and very scarce. Whereas some of these are older and or harder to find, but they do end up being, a little bit more common and perhaps unexpected. So yeah, that's my spiel. I got that out of the way. So let's get into the actual video, starting off with Creation Resonator, which is a card that I don't really recall ever actually seeing any type of significant play. So Creation Resonator is a level 3 Fiend Tuner that says if you control a level 8 or higher Synchro monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. It's not bad or anything. It's a decent Resonator card by all accounts, and in certain Red Dragon Archfiend strategies, you can special this out for, additional extenders, but there are a lot of cards that kind of do the same thing, but better. The common version of this card was only printed once in Legendary Collection 5Ds. Now, that's obviously a set that has aged very well over time, and even cards that are not very meta-relevant in that set have gotten a large price point. But Creation Resonator is a whopping $10 a copy on average for this common, and even its Starstrike Blast rare, which doesn't count for this video because it is a rare and not a common, is over $10. So while that one's not as surprising, this copy of a card that doesn't really see any play and just has another alternative from a set that has some significant name value is around $10. So if you opened a lot of this back in the day, or perhaps go through bulk, you might be able to find a card you had no reason to think was worth anything significant, and you could be sitting on a small stack of change. All right, next up is one that a lot of people probably are not going to know about, and this is Foucault or Foucault's Cannon. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. We're talking specifically about the one from Demo Pack 2016. What they did was they would give out these demo packs or demo decks. They basically consisted of like 20 cards on average at like local stores. They would hold these events, and basically people that didn't play the game or wanted to learn how to play the game would get these demo decks, and you could play against friends or play against other people there. It was meant to be a way to like introduce Yu-Gi-Oh to more people, but also just like give people an opportunity to try out the game and see if they like it. And as a result, with scarcity, this card is actually a $15 card as a common from that demo deck. Now, every other copy of Foucault's Cannon that is a common is around 10 cents, and then the foil is like 19 cents. Obviously, this card has never really seen any play. It's a vanilla pendulum that came out that, around the time that there were definitely some better pendulums to play around with. It's cool for sure, like artistically speaking, but the card has never really been all that good, whether in real life or in games or anything of that nature. And yet you're looking at about $15 a copy, with the most recent sold listing going for around $11. And again, there's just not much of it there. And I think that's sort of what scarcely affects this card's value. There's very good chance that this is not a card you're just going to like find in your bulk, unless you like randomly went to a bunch of different demo days back in 2016. I mean, this is 6 years old. It's not something that a lot of people would have kept in good condition either, because a lot of people that were playing demo games probably just kind of like picked them up or left the decks, took the decks. It might have been kids who didn't know what they had or anything, and it's just created a scarcity for this card that is, very, very interesting from a historical standpoint, to say it's a $15 common from a demo deck that barely anyone even knows exists. And it's neat if you have it. It's definitely one of those things that, like, over time could be a niche collector's item. But yeah, this is around $15, and there is only one listing at the time of this video's recording, and that listing is for a lightly played copy. Otherwise, there's just not any there. And an interesting note is Foucault's Cannon did also come out in another demo pack 2 years later, but even that copy, which is also a common, is only around $1.95. So it's just the 2016 demo deck one that seems to have that real value. And it's interesting, although I do not really know the reason, aside from it just not being very accessible, which I guess may answer that question on it. Now, next up, this one may not be super surprising to many of you if you've played GOAT or other legacy formats. Gatling Dragon has always been an expensive card. It was initially released in Flaming Eternity and got a reprint in Dark Revelation Volume 3, and all of those were ultra rare or better, with a beautiful ultimate rare in Flaming Eternity holding a very high price point of over $100. But that's not the topic of this video today. We're talking about Gatling Dragon's common prints, in which it has two. The first one came out in Legendary Collection 4, Joey's World, and was actually very affordable for a while, despite being short printed in that set. It was around $6 for a long time, but now, in 2022, is about $15 on average for a common copy of this from Joey's World. That's not the most shocking thing in the world either, because Joey's World, again, is another Legendary Collection set that has aged very well. This card has a lot of use in GOAT formats and just as an overall collectible card, and it's just a neat piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history that has never really been widely accessible. I say that with the knowledge that its other common printing was in OTS 7, which, while more recent, is definitely a couple years old at this point, and still goes right around that $14 to $15 mark. It's basically just a matter of preference, I guess, if you want, like, the first at Joey's World or the OTS 7. I don't really see much of a difference at all between the two, but this card could definitely be due for a reprint at some point in the near future, just to be a bit more accessible, and does kind of go in my idea of, Konami taking a bunch of these older cards or cards that are played in GOAT and maybe making like a special set for them now that it's an officially recognized format. I think could be a cool way to reprint and bring down the value on some banned cards while also giving alternate foil treatments, but that's another topic for another video. But yeah, both common copies of Gatling Dragon are around $15. If you have extras of these, then you're definitely sitting pretty, although I would imagine that this is going to be the one people are probably most familiar with, if you are familiar with one, to look at this and say, okay, yeah, Gatling Dragon, like, I've heard of this, I know it's good. It was a Metamorphosis target, among other things, and just has a lot of relevance in legacy formats. Obviously doesn't see play today, but it's still just a cool piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history. Speaking of Metamorphosis, that is the next one on our list. Metamorphosis has been banned for a very long time, and although we have discussed it in previous banned list and forbidden list videos, talking about whether or not it could come back, what type of impact it would make, the universal consensus seems to be that this card is just extremely powerful even to this day, and as we get better fusion monsters and the game moves forward into a more powerful state of fusion monsters, this card just gets better. So it's unlikely Metamorphosis will ever be legalized, as fun as it would be to see without an errata. I mean, if it had an errata with some restrictions, maybe you'd be able to make an argument for it, but there are still cards like The Last Warrior from Another Planet that are very abusable with this, among hundreds probably of other fusion monsters that you can bring out. Now, Metamorphosis does not have a lot of prints. In fact, it's only been printed 3 times total, and one of those was in a champion pack. Its champion pack copy goes for over $1,000 on average, so that's not even part of this discussion. But its 2 common prints are both its original print in Pharaonic Guardian, where it is around $7 for an unlimited copy, and around $8 to $10 for a first edition copy near mint. Actually a little lower than it's been in a while. I think maybe just as, seasons come and go and people randomly will like get into GOAT format, you'll see this card start to spike for its common as people pick up more copies, and then I don't know if it's just a matter of like it slowing down or rotating interest, but there'll be more accessible copies on the market and then it goes back up. But for a common, it's definitely pricey, and this is something I used to find in bulk all the time and never even really thought to put it aside. I mean, it was one of those cards, it was like $1 or $2, but as Yu-Gi-Oh's legacy format started to pick up more traction, so did the cards that are played in them, which is just kind of the way supply and demand works. Now, Metamorphosis also has a print in Dark Revelation 1. It is not first edition, obviously, because those sets were only unlimited, but Dark Revelation 1's copy is about $12 on average. Definitely a set that's harder to find even than Pharaonic Guardian in terms of things like bulk and looseness, because those Dark Revelation packs were sort of limited runs to an extent. They weren't core sets. They didn't get as much of a print run as a lot of these big name sets that were repeated and recycled as part of legendary collections or other sets over the years. So DR1, I mean, it's only $12 versus 10 for a first ed Pharaonic Guardian. It's not crazy difference there. I guess comes down to preference and what type of set you like, but some people want the original, other people may want a different one. Either way, Metamorphosis is a pretty pricey card, although like I said, it is a bit lower than I've seen it in the past for its common printing, and could definitely benefit from a reprint, especially for people to play those legacy formats, even if they just put it as like a super rare or an ultra rare in an upcoming side set or something like they did with Delinquent Duo a few years ago. It would definitely be cool for people who want to play those formats to be able to get a cheaper copy of Metamorphosis. Next up is one you might be surprised here, or maybe not. Mokimoki. This card has, of course, never really seen any type of real play, although it did get support most recently in Power of the Elements with Mokimoki Adrift, which is a pretty cool card as a whole. Mokimoki's really only value print for its common is the first edition Ancient Sanctuary. The Ancient Sanctuary copy in first edition goes for at least $15, maybe a little bit more. There had been a couple of buyouts when Mokimoki Adrift was first announced, and I saw it as high as $30, but I waited to get a better kind of grasp on the data, and it does look like most of the sold listings have gone for around that $15 to $18 mark, so we'll call it 15 for the sake of the video. It does have a few other common prints in sets like Dark Revelation and Turbo Pack 4, in which it's about $2 or $3 a piece, and then it was again recently reprinted in Speed Duel GX, the Duel Academy box, which is what really drove the price down, because prior to that it had not been printed in years. And of course, as people get excited about the possibility of more Mokimoki support, it's definitely a fan favorite vanilla, kind of a goofy card. It was in GX, it had its moments, but yeah, first edition copy of this card is going to cost you around 15, and even an unlimited of the Ancient Sanctuary is going to cost you around $3 to $4 for near mint. So it's a card that's been in bulk for a long time, and you could have a little bit of a some value on your hands if you happen to have some Ancient Sanctuary bulk, or perhaps you go through bulk at locals, pick up bulk, whatever. Definitely not a terrible value card, but if you want to just play it and don't really care about having the original, then you can certainly get it for less than 20 cents in the Speed Duel GX box as a common. I'd like to see this card get a foil print, even if it's just in like an OTS at some point, just because I do think it's cool, and I think we need more Mokimoki support on top of that. So let me know in the comments if you guys want more Mokimoki support and support cards. I know people really enjoy this card, and it's kind of goofy and very low-key, but it would be nice to see them get a few more playable. Link Spider. This is another card I talked about from a demo pack. This one actually came out in Demo Pack 4, so a bit more recent. I think it was 2018, but I'm not 100% sure on the date. Of course, Link Spider does have a few other printings and has typically never been dirt cheap, but has never been super expensive either. Link Spider's Demo Pack 4 is definitely its most expensive common, while the Ultimate Rare is its most expensive printing in general. This card saw a lot of play early on in Link format, and even its commons from the starter decks that it was in are around $2 to $3 a piece. But what I'm talking about here is the Advanced Demo Extra Pack, and that is around $8 to $10 a copy. Similar to the card we discussed earlier, the Foucault's Cannon, which was in a demo pack. Link Spider was in a demo display sort of designed to teach people about links, how to get back into the game if they hadn't played in a while. And as this is a card that actually has had meta relevance multiple times, it's holding a pretty solid value despite having not a lot of listings. You can get, a copy on TCG Player right now. There's about 10 listings, but that's pretty scarce even for a common. And it's one of those cards that just, it has that niche following. And if you're not a fan of the Ultimate Rares or don't want to pay the premium on the Ultimate Rares, you could theoretically call this a higher rarity, although I'd find that to be kind of a cop-out because technically it is still a common. But if you played in these demo events or just like unique pieces of Yu-Gi-Oh! History that maybe you didn't know about, Link Spider from Demo Pack 4 is definitely one to keep on your radar. And lastly, of course, Trap Dust Shoot may not be a huge shock to anyone either. One of the most fun banned cards in my opinion, in the sense that I fondly remember playing formats when this was legal, but definitely understand the rationale behind it being banned. It is a very, very powerful card, and although I would like to see it come back and see what type of impact it might have, I think the general consensus of players would disagree with that, and I can't necessarily fault them for it. Now, Trap Dust Shoot does have a super rare print that is extremely expensive, over $450. We showcased that in our collection video from a couple weeks ago, but it also has a dual terminal common, which I did not count for the purpose of this video. So we're looking at its two common prints. We've got one from Dark Beginning 2, which is another set that was sort of more limited reprint set and had some alternate rarities. It was much bigger, so it was hard to pull specific commons. The Dark Beginning 2 copy of this card is around $9 to $10 a piece for the common, which, while not egregious, is definitely a lot of of money for a banned card that, like, you know, maybe you may not even know has any real value. And of course, the Pharaonic Guardian, similar to Metamorphosis, that set just has a lot of valuable commons from back in the day due to either not being reprinted a lot because they were banned or just being missed over for whatever reason. The first edition copies are around 9 to 12, and the unlimiteds are around 7 to 8. So similar to Metamorphosis, this card's value has gone down in recent months, I guess, because I did see it as high as like 17 to 20 at one point, but it fluctuates, and of course people do prefer higher rarity sometimes. It's just that higher rarity for a card like this is extremely high in price by comparison. It's like over, you know, almost 50 times the price of the regular card. So you're not talking about a $10 upgrade. You're talking about like a very, very significant price upgrade to be able to play this card. And if you have it, it does look really nice as a super. And this is another card that I'd like to see get a reprint, even though it's going to stay banned, just to give it a drop in price for people that want to play legacy formats or explore those formats or play with friends and not have to pay as much. So that would definitely be really cool as a bit of a nod to those players. So that brings us back to the beginning, and that's going to wrap up this video. Definitely enjoy talking about this stuff. It's a little bit of a different look, and it's just kind of meant to be a bit more fun and informative. But as you can see, there are a lot of commons that you may not have known about. Some of you may have known about all of these. I'm really not sure. I can't predict the future. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you want to see more discussion topics like this, definitely let me know. And of course, check back every day for new shorts and weekly for new videos, new set releases, and all of that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and following us on socials as well. I'll put the link in the description below for all of that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. This video is brought to you by YourPlaymat.com. Create your own custom playmats, card sleeves, and more by visiting YourPlaymat.com today using the affiliate link in the description below. Use my code LS10YP and save 10% off your purchase while supporting the channel directly. Thanks again to YourPlaymat.com for sponsoring this video.